The Souls-like genre may be the greatest example of an acquired taste. Not everyone is going to enjoy it, and not everyone is going to feel that special feeling that comes once everything finally clicks and you find yourself destroying your enemies, as opposed to constantly dying to them like in the early hours. This is why, as the years go by, I found myself looking for more Souls-likes to play, because this genre can do a lot more than what From Software has to offer. Or in the case of Salt and Sanctuary, make what is essentially a remake of the original Dark Souls, while also being different enough to stand on its own. The funniest thing is that in concept, this game is bringing the Souls-like genre all the way back to its roots. A Metroidvania that makes full use of its Metroid elements, while embracing the Castlevania side of things with the art style and themes. In Silent Sanctuary, our protagonist was part of a ship crew looking to escort a princess towards a foreign nation for a political marriage, with hopes that this will quell the constant religious wars going around in the world. However, the ship gets attacked by bandits and some other eldritch monster, and our protagonist ends up shipwrecked on some nameless island, where they now have to find a princess and escape. But that is something easier said than done. True to the genre, everything is out to kill you in this game. From regular round zombies, to giant knights, to dragons, and no enemy is to be underestimated, as you can easily get overwhelmed and killed. But this is not as common as you may think. While danger lurks around every corner, there is a fair share of exploration going on, and this is the key to the genre really. You always want to look around for enemies, items, supplies, shortcuts, and then make your way back to your sanctuary. This could sound scary, but every major area in this game is actually quite small. You never stray too far away from your sanctuary, and every time you go out to explore, you are guaranteed to find something useful. This is made better by how you are guaranteed to progress every time you explore, be it with the stuff you find or the souls you collect. Maybe it's because I come from playing several Souls-likes, but I found leveling up in this game to be extremely easy. It was actually rare for me to run into a brick wall. And here is where the game doing its own thing comes into play by the way of the sanctuaries. They work just like the typical bonfires in Dark Souls, but they are also dedicated to the many religions or creeds of the game. You can populate each sanctuary with a specialized NPC to get your certain goods and services, but in order to do that, you have to find their respective stones. And since they are all limited, you have to choose wisely where to use them, especially true if you plan to fast travel. The benefits you gain from said sanctuaries also depends on which creed is controlling it, and you lose whichever benefits you had from one creed if you rested a sanctuary belonging to another one. But they're all well evenly distributed, so you don't really need to worry about losing those benefits. Back on the gameplay front, the Metroidvania aspects of the game are some of my favorites. Since this is a 2D game, it means the core of your troubles is going to involve platforming. A lot of platforming. Navigation becomes a lot easier once you start gathering the brands, and in some instances, it even turns your torch into a much needed tool for survival, kind of expanding on the lighting system that Dark Souls 2 was trying to do back in the day. Unfortunately, the platforming can be one of the weaker aspects of this game sometimes. True to the Souls genre, gravity will be your worst enemy, and there is a lot of instances where falling down to your death may feel a little unfair, if not downright bullcrap. But true to any platforming, and thanks to the maps being rather small, you thankfully don't have to put up with the platforming too much. At least it didn't bother me that much outside of a few instances. Since we are on the topic of the maps being small, I want to take a moment to appreciate how this game addresses one of the interesting constants of this type of game. Usually these games are set in entire kingdoms. You can go from being in a regular fantasy town to all the way down in a hellish pit, and sometimes the distance you travel doesn't seem to make too much sense. Here, however, the variety of environments and architecture is actually addressed, and it is part of the plot. This island is an amalgamation of several landmarks of this game's world. Multiple countries, cultures, weapons, all of it is in here, blended together, and figuring out why that is the case does play a part on your need to escape the island. Same with uncovering some of its most darkest secrets. That feels very refreshing to me, because for the first time, the story is not taking place in a post-apocalyptic world, or while a big disaster is happening. Instead, you are confined to this island, and the world itself is just a troubled world torn by war. Those crates are indeed the religions in this world, and whichever you are a part of will in fact give you a variation of the two main endings. So this makes the already personal Souls-like experience into something even more personal, and I love that. What makes me say everything in this game and the genre as a whole feels personal? I say it because the core of the Souls-like experience is making it through the game on your own terms. You may have a specific class at the start of the game, but as you make progress and level up, you can actually change your build to whatever you would like, and given the size of the skill tree in this game alone, the possibilities are nearly endless. The mark of a good game comes from how you can adapt and overcome as you go, how you can go from a fast melee fighter to a straight up tank. For my own playthrough, I focused entirely on melee with a specific weapon, and I stuck by it all the way through. When the time came to upgrade, I simply had it transmuted into a different weapon from the same class and then kept upgrading it from there. It gets to the point where the game even allowed me to pick a specific set of armor, just because I thought it looked the coolest. Stats be damned really, and just focus myself on honing my own skills and surviving. Of course I had to pay the price from time to time, but as I improvised and kept adapting to my situation, it made every victory feel all the more amazing. And no amazing Souls-like is complete without some amazing bosses. The creatures roaming this island can be pretty intimidating, if not downright nasty, but it is here where everything you learn along the way really pays off. What separates an intense boss fight from a shameful brick wall is learning from your mistakes, or how willing you are to go back, regroup, and grind a bit more experience so you can try different strategies. It's one of the main reasons games go out of their way to give you that many weapons, accessories, and upgrades, to give you a fighting chance. If your main playstyle wasn't working, you can change it up. And again, because the maps are small enough, it really didn't take long for me to level myself up some more so I could get through that much needed win. One funny thing I did notice was that the more I was progressing through the game and facing more bosses, the easier everything started to feel. Enemies in this game are no pushover of course, but I couldn't help but believe some players were correct by saying a melee build might very well be easy mode. Either that or having now 5 Souls games under my belt is making the challenge a lot easier. After all, your first Souls game is always the hardest, and the more you play them, they do feel easier. It does help of course that the game does have a little bit of jank, but it never bothered me, mainly because this game was made by only 2 people, so there's not exactly going to be crazy amounts of polish, even if the overall product here is actually pretty impressive considering the size of the small dev team. The other reason it doesn't bother me is because the core of the Souls genre and video games in general is to just learn from your mistakes as you go. Dying is part of what makes the Souls experience, and this genre hands you XP like it's candy, so I was always able to make back whatever souls I was lost in a matter of minutes because the game allowed me to do this. One more thing I want to say about this game that makes me love it, as I said earlier, is the environments. The game may be 2D, but this didn't stop the developers from making the main environments pretty gorgeous and atmospheric. Going from standard castles, to fancy cathedral, to a climactic starbound castle, every area in this game is very memorable, and it does evoke the loneliness of your journey, and at times the creepiness of how hostile the environment is. It makes the quieter moments all the more significant, and it helps with the pacing because it lets you reflect on all the crazy stuff you dealt with earlier, and it also lets you mentally recharge and prepare for whatever new challenges await you in the next area. This game does break a few conventions of the Souls genre by putting a couple of ambience tunes here and there, but I believe those help a lot with the atmosphere here since they only kick in here and there, and it's done so seamlessly that you may not even noticing until the song is already playing. Even with all the sheer amount of inspirations it copied from the Dark Souls series, I feel Zelda Sanctuary got enough merits to stand on its own. I came for the 2D Souls-like experience and ended up staying for something that felt closer to classic Castlevania. There is a lot of heart put into this game, and it really makes me happy knowing that a sequel is coming at the time of this recording. I can only imagine how the 2 developers are planning to expand on this genre and what things they learned from its few shortcomings. Overall, I think that for what this is, Zelda Sanctuary is a fantastic game, and it's well worthy of being part of the genre. It scratches all the right itches for a game of this style, the environments are very varied and great, and in short, I feel all the cables cross in the right places. This is why I am giving Zelda Sanctuary a nearly perfect 9 out of 10. This game expanded the Souls-like genre by, funnily enough, bringing it back full circle into its 2D roots. It may have been buried under many other great 2D Souls-likes that came out in the years after its release, but I still believe this game is well worth experiencing. It opens you to a new world of gameplay possibilities, and now I can only look forward to see what else the Souls-like genre has to offer.